So there we are. I'm John Fredericks, and I am your blowtorch, your free speech in America, your oracle of the deplorables. Hey, thanks for being with me today. As always, I got to tell you, these scam games going out. When you're in Virginia, it's unbelievable. I'm here in Indy, and these scam games in Virginia are so bad. I was driving there the other day. We, stopped for gas. This was a couple weeks ago. So I stopped at some convenience store. You got these illegal scam games in there. I think I was in Longwood, something, but it was a very rural area. It was just outside of the college. And so I go in there to get, I don't know what we get, water, gas. And they got these scam games, and they got 3 people on them playing it, all senior citizens, all African Americans, all definitely older. And I know they're in there gambling their Social Security check. And I'm thinking to myself, you know what? This is such a scam. I mean, they're losing their money. It's a ripoff. There's no regulation. These things prey, first of all, they're illegal. They prey on the most vulnerable in our society. And it really makes me sick. I mean, my own mother, bless her heart, Dolly, before she died, would spend hundreds of dollars a month on these things. We'd have to drag her out. I mean, they're very addictive, and old people don't have anything else to do. And so it's just awful. And so, look, if you're driving around and you see one of these things, they're totally illegal, get them out of there. Just call the local sheriff. They'll get them out. They'll tell you about some loophole. There is no loophole, okay? Everybody's getting scammed on these things. Get them out. They're disgusting. Now they're trying to put casinos on your phone in Virginia. They got iGaming. Oh, that's all we need. Like, let's lose our money. It's one thing when you go and bet athletics like I do. You go to DraftKings or FanDuel, MGM, or Caesars, whichever one you happen to pick. You got to go through a vetting process, right? There's all kinds of things you got to go through. You got to put the money in there, right? If you're out of the area, there's a firewall. You can't get in. You start getting iGames on any iPhone in Virginia, there's no way to monitor this. It's a ripoff. And so now they're trying to do that to scam you more. You see it? Get it out. Call the sheriff. This message paid for by Churchill Downs. Let's get to my good friend, Todd Sheets. Todd, thanks for being with us.
Again.
Todd, my economic guru. Todd, I saw the very nice story you wrote about what I said the other day. Thank you for doing that.
Yeah, well, thanks for telling the story. I thought that was fantastic. I thought it was very touching and inspiring. So it was good source of information for last week's Substack.
So if you want to read the story, I'm not going to tell you what it is on the air, but you can go to Substack. And how do they get your stuff again, Todd? Because I know it's free. How do they get it?
Yeah, just go to substack.com. They can search for either On Wealth and Progress or my name, Todd Sheets. Either one of those will help find it. Or they could go to my website, toddsheetswriter.com. So I even wrote a little poem about you that's in that piece at the end.
I saw that.
Yeah.
Christine Bowserman sent it to me. Thanks, Christine, for doing that. Very nice, very touching. And people want to know what this story is. I happen to be walking from the White House to my house, and there was a young fellow, African American, mid-20s, picking up the garbage. That's his job with the city of DC, and he's got the little thing there. He's got his gloves on, and he does a really good job because our area is so clean. I see him a lot, and I just happen to stop and thank him for the super job he does. And he gave me the biggest hug. He cried and said, "Nobody has ever recognized me since I've been here, and I really work hard to keep this place clean, and I got the cleanest place of anybody." And he said, one day I'm going to move up, and one day I'm going to be a supervisor. That might take a while, but that's my goal. I'm going to be a supervisor because I do a better job than anybody. And then he hugged me. And this is life, right? People, it doesn't matter what job you have, you try to do it the best you can possibly do, you're going to be successful. That guy is going to be very successful in this life, Todd.
Yeah, and it was such a perfect contrast for me. And I mentioned in the article that like a week before, I had been with a younger friend. He went to a prestigious school. I made the comment to him, that worked out really well for you in spite of all the negative things you hear about higher education. And he said, "Well, yeah, I was lucky." And I said, "Oh, how so?" And he said, "Well, when I got there, they basically told us that their brand was so powerful that we could study whatever we wanted. We could basically do whatever we wanted. And as long as we got a degree, companies would be falling all over themselves to hire everybody. And he said, you know, it worked out for me because I went into a good field. But for many of my friends, they were very much misled by that. And, you know, those are the people that are running up the debts. They're frustrated. They haven't gotten jobs that will pay for their educations. And so the whole point was the contrast between what's being taught in our educational system so much of the time, not all of the time today, and which is highly dysfunctional. You know, go to college and you don't have to learn to work hard. You don't have to take pride in your work. We'll give you an A no matter what you do. You're entitled to this. And if you get out, then with a degree, you're entitled to the good life, let's call it. Just because you got a degree from this place, just because you got into this place. Well, it doesn't work that way in the real world. And unfortunately, they're being taught that. And then they're being taught if it doesn't work out that way for you and you're frustrated, you know, then it's the system's fault. Then we need to tear down and rebuild America instead of admitting that it's the educational system's fault. So I thought it was just a very nice contrast between the difference in the message so many of these kids are getting at school versus the message that young man learned somewhere along the line, as you pointed out, and that you brought out by going up and thanking him for his work. So,
okay, sounds excellent, and thank you for that, Todd. So it's December 9th. The Obamacare subsidies are expiring. Everybody's getting worried about it. Let me give you just my example, right? So I'm on Medicare. So I'm 67. Good, yay. It's good policy, right? So I was paying $550 a month. And gets a bill 2 days ago. It went up to, in January, $740. I'm sorry, $770. So I got a 40% increase, no explanation, no reason why. I went to the doctor this year one time to do my preventative male checkup, which is required, which I did. Got all the tests done one time. And I get a 40% increase. Now, we're lucky that we happen to be in a position where we can fund that. If it was 10 years ago, I would have had to drop my insurance. I couldn't afford it. I didn't have any money. So why did I get a 40% increase on Medicare? And what is everybody else going to get?
Yeah, so, you know, healthcare is a tricky area. It's not an area that is a focused expertise of mine. I do have some general knowledge. I do know, because I got the same thing recently. And in my case, part of my increase was because I sold some stock last year that I had a capital gain on. And they're basing this year's payment on the income with the capital gain in it, even though that's not a recurring kind of thing. So I don't know if there was anything in your income that changed from one year to the next. But again, to me, you know, this ought to be based on some kind of average recurring level of income, you know, that takes into consideration the idea that one-time events like a capital gain, you know, aren't something that, you know, you should build into like the normal income of a person. That's not something you can fund.
Yeah, because like in our case, we sold land that one of our radio stations is on. We sold the land to pay down the debt for the station. And then, but because we sold the land, we now have to pay, to lease it. So the guy that bought it, we pay him the lease. So our cash flow actually went down because we paid down debt, long-term debt, but our cash flow went down. So like my cash flow goes down and I get a 40% increase. Like, how does this make any sense?
Well, none of it makes any sense, right? I mean, this goes back to the Obamacare stuff. I mean, you know, in my understanding, one of the big problems there is they tried to subsidize the cost. You know, you've got different levels of medical intensity. And so, you know, people who have conditions or people who are older tend to be bigger users of medical resources than younger or healthy people, but they averaged all of this stuff out to try and make it more affordable for, for the more high intensity users on balance. But what that's done over time is it's driven out a lot of the lower intensity users from the system, which then pushes the costs up because they have to be spending so much more on, the people that have conditions or that, are tend to have more illnesses and that kind of thing. So the healthcare system is a mess. I do think this is an area where the Republicans have made some huge mistakes because they just have not gotten ahead of the game on all of this. And the Democrats are happy to rush in and create, Medicare for everyone or Obamacare for everybody, and just try and spread the costs all over the system willy-nilly without any, rationality to the system. And the Republicans sit back, they're hesitant to do anything, I think because they know the tendency is once you create any program, it grows and grows and grows out of control and keeps pushing the spending and the deficits up and that kind of thing. So we've gotten caught in this situation where the Republicans don't really have a plan or what to do. And, they're going to be exposed. I mean, that issue is going to be exposed over the next couple of weeks here as they try and figure out what to do with the issue you described, which is not only happening for us, but also for the Obama.
Well, we got to figure this out. I know that President Trump is in favor of giving the money directly to the the people that are going to get hit. I'm not sure about that. I just want to find something to solve this short term and then get a long-term solution. Hopefully we can do that. Todd, stay with us. Todd's going to take your calls, 888-480-JOHN, 888-480-56. We'll be right back.